This is this video. In this video, I want to talk about how can we get closer to Guru Sahib through Kirtan and Gurbani. And even though this situation which we are in now might seem quite extreme and it never happened in our lives before, but we still can do things which maybe we were putting off because we didn't have time. And in my personal experience, in my personal journey, when I got into Sikhi, I was in a kind of vacuum similar to what we're now. I was in Russia, and I did not have sangat. I did not have ability to go and learn, for example, Kirtan, and there was no teachers. So in a way, it's similar to this situation where I was isolated, but I did have this desire to get closer to Guru Sahib and to learn. And back then, we're talking probably 99, 2000, there was not as many resources available online as there are now. And today I want to share some of the ideas of how we can actually use this time that we have now to maybe do some of those things that we were putting off. I know probably everybody has this one shabad that they want to learn, or I don't know, start maybe learning string instrument or something. So there are options. And when I started learning Kirtan, actually learning Punjabi, my first experiences were through I was subscribed to Sikh Hukamnama, daily Hukamnamas, and they would send it in Gurmukhi format, then there will be transliteration, then there will be translation. And literally my first things that I used to do is just look at the Gurmukhi, and I learned the alphabet so I could read it, or if I couldn't read, I would look at the transliteration and try to understand, kind of match the words. I mean, nowadays there are websites and there are apps where you can enter the word and it will give you the translation, so like dictionary. At that time it wasn't available. I had the Mahankosh, but obviously it's a very huge volume, so it's hard to find things in it. So with Gurmukhi I started learning like this, trying to build up the vocabulary, trying to build up the understanding of the language. And with Kirtan, my first thing that I think it was actually from a book. I started learning Kirtan from a book, and imagine having something like this. I'll show it to you. So this is photocopy actually from the book that I had, which is by Avtar Singh Ji's book. Obviously it's all in Punjabi. The first part, it tells you kind of like information about the rag and gives you a background, historical background, and then it goes into form of the rag. It gives you kind of notation for the alaps. Alaps are kind of like musical form of the rag, and then it goes into actual compositions. So if you see that this will be the shabad and this will be the notes, and from that I used to try to figure out how to play it. Obviously I would make like 1,000 mistakes, and Guru Sahib and actually Sangat are very forgiving and very accepting. So if you have this desire to learn, you should not hesitate and actually take these first steps on the journey because I mean, without taking the first step you can't go far. So if you're at home and you do have a vajja, you do have maybe another instrument, this is a good time to start. And you might think, oh, I've never learned music. I've never learned music before I started learning Kirtan. Never sang. I was actually told to go away from the choir because my voice wasn't good. They said, go learn drumming, you'll be better at that. But anyway, so before I started learning vajja and tabla, I've never had an experience. And I'm just checking as well, if you guys have any questions, you can send them on YouTube comments and Facebook comments, and they'll be sent to me. So somebody's asking if there are any apps to help teach Kirtan, and I'm going to cover this later on. So the first thing I want to tell you is basically the vajra. What do we do with this, the harmonium? Harmonium is easy. So if you have a keyboard, it's the same thing as harmonium. If you have a piano, it's the same thing as harmonium. So it is very easy. It's literally you press the key, you know what it is, and you sing the same thing. So when you starting to learn vajra, you need to learn kind of two things: is your voice coordinated with the keys, and how your hands going. So it's two things that you need to start practicing first. There are two, obviously male and female voices are different. So female voice, we play lower but we sing higher, and men, they play higher but they sing lower because their voices are naturally lower. So I will show you female scale and male scale. So female scale starts from here. It's the middle of the three black keys, and that's your sa. Sa is your bass, your first key, your bass tone. So the first thing that you normally do when you start learning, you need to kind of coordinate your voice to sing in the same key as what you're pressing. So kind of that's the first exercise that you do. You just match your voice to the key, and then the next steps will be to learn how the Sarigama go. Sarigama are the keys that we have, the tones, the notes. So this is how the keys. We have 7 notes, and male starts from here, the first of the 2 black ones. So this is the male sa, and then it goes like this. Sorry. So that's the male scale, and female scale again from here. So if you want to learn and you don't have a book, or you don't have maybe notes from your previous class that you used to go 20 years ago to, like I did, you can find this stuff online. There's so much online. One thing, there are YouTube videos where actually you can see a vajra filmed from the top and a person playing the keys, so you can follow the keys. Sometimes they put notes with it, so you can follow the notes as well, and you can find those both for female and for male scale. One that comes to mind, I believe if you just type "learn Kirtan" on YouTube, you will find those videos where people play the shabads. In terms of apps, so one brilliant app which is extremely helpful for anybody who wants to learn Kirtan is called iTabla Pro, and iTabla Pro is the must. It is an expensive app, but once you buy it, you use it for your whole life. I also believe, it's maybe an inside knowledge, but then there's a newer version of similar kind of app coming out, and I'm hoping that it will be maybe less expensive, but we'll see. So I'll quickly show you what iTabla Pro does. So iTabla is this icon, and it has a tabla machine in it, and it has a tampura, which is kind of like a drone sound, which helps you just kind of create the zone and gives you the bass notes as well, sa, ma or sa, pa. With the tabla machine, when you get a notation for a shabad, it normally comes in a tal, so it tells you. So for example, this one, which I have a photocopy of, it's Rag Ramkali Ek Tal. So Ek Tal, for those who know, it's 12 beats. For those who don't know, it is 12 beats. And when you're learning Kirtan, obviously it is important not to just learn the keys, but also figure out how it goes with the tabla, because when you will be singing it in Sangat, you will be accompanied by tabla, and it has to go together, it has to join it together. So with the iTabla Pro, there is a selection of tals that you can go through. You go through the top, select the tal. So for example, if I'll go to Ek Tal, I'll scroll down to Ek Tal, and I press play. So it plays the Ek Tal, and I will select the the tone that I need, because I'm singing on a female scale, so I would go to, right now it's on C sharp, but female scale is G sharp, so I will change the tone to G sharp. So now it's matching my scale, and I will play that. If I'm learning Shabbat and Ektal, I will demonstrate. So you need to wait for when the first key hits the sum. Vaheguru, 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 Vaheguru. So see, like I'm playing with the tal, so it all merges. But I mean, probably maybe this is not the best example because it's 12 beats, kind of complicated. But if we go to simple things, okay, you don't want to invest this money into this app, it's fine. Simplest thing to do is just to get a metronome, and metronome are the loads of free apps online. If you just type in the App Store or in the Google Play store, if you just type metronome, it gives you just a beat, just count, and with this you can practice. So for example, you've got a simple tune for Simran, 3 keys. You just do that tune in the beat of the metronome, so it helps you to keep in rhythm. Vaheguru, 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 Vaheguru. I'm trying to remember. Jigraj Singh had this tune which was 2 keys. I'm trying to remember it. No, I'm not going to remember it. I can't do justice to it. No, it's too much. Okay, so metronome is very good because it just gives you simple beat, and you can practice your simple Simran tune with that. So this covers the beat, and of course in the beginning everything seems quite difficult, but there are simple steps. The first, if we go back to again, first step will be to just practice matching your voice to the instrument that you have, whatever it is, just match the voice. Then second thing, slowly going through the notes and learning where each note is. And so on, yeah. Practicing so slow. The first steps will be you start really slow. You just do the slow 1 key at a time. Just get that right. Move on to the next one. Get that right. Move on to the next one. Get that right. And then slowly building up speed, building up confidence, and moving between the notes. Okay, I'm going to look at the messages that's coming through. Any advice for someone that wants to learn the rabab? Who can they contact to learn? Okay, that's really good. So that's another thing. Nowadays there are actually a lot of places, a lot of people, a lot of teachers that will teach you online. For rabab, obviously, my Ustad ji Satnam Singh Veer ji from Jandiala Guru, principal sponsoring student, so they teach online, and Veerji plays rabab. So maybe I can share later on in the comments on Facebook and YouTube some contacts for those. But there are people who teach tanti sach. Tanti sach are the string instruments, the Guru's instruments, and they teach online, so you can get tuition online. Let me look at the other comments, please. Someone asking if you can share the Waheguru notes, Simran. I mean, there are loads of tunes. I don't know which one you mean. I guess I can type probably a few simple ones afterwards again in the comments. It's kind of hard to know which one you mean. There are quite a few of those. And Okay, let me see. Look, another question, please. Okay, so other things I wanted to cover. There are teachers online that they will teach you that you can have classes with, but really the time always is the biggest problem. But guess what? We don't have this problem now because we have all the time in the world. We're sitting at home, so gotta do it. If, say, we know that we're at home for, I don't know, 2 weeks or 3 weeks or month, why don't set ourselves goals? Look, I am probably the worst person to follow up with my learning. Look, this is the book that I have from years I've been going to classes, and guess what? I probably don't remember any of the Shabbats. So if you're like me, who hasn't been following up on the vast amount of knowledge that Ustads have shared with them, now is our time to actually get this stuff sorted. Okay, I wanted to quickly touch up on Tanti Saj. I do have my Dilruba here with me, and if you are at home and you actually happen to have an instrument at home that you might have not played for ages, or maybe one of your older siblings had it, or maybe one of your parents. So with the Tanti Saj, the first thing is the tuning. And okay, it's got a lot of strings, but if we just concentrate on one, and again, for these instruments you can find tuning charts online. So the first string is normally the one you actually play on Dilruba, on Taus, on Israj. On Sarangi you play all three. Mostly on Dilruba you play one. With Dilruba is again the same thing. You have to tune it so you know that it's hitting the note. For tuning, you might think, oh, how do I tune it? I have no idea. You can get an app on the phone. Literally all you do is you search for tuner, and you can get loads of them. So, and it looks something like that. This one is called INS tuner, and it gives you kind of the screen with a needle, similar to if you actually have a physical tuner. It does the same thing. It shows you, are you hitting the note, or you're off, or you need to tighten. So my first string is F sharp. F sharp is on the Vajra, it's the first black key out of 3. So I need to check if my first string matches F sharp. So what I do, I just play open string, and my instrument is tuned. Actually, it was tuned before, so I'm kind of cheating. But anyway, if it wasn't hitting the note, then I would adjust it from here. I would make it I would either tighten it or loosen it to match that needle, so the needle is straight on F sharp. And then it is the same process with the Tanti Saj as with the Vajra. So you play the note. This is my Sa, and I would match my voice to the instrument. So I would say, and I would get practicing Sa. I'll go to Re, Sa, Re, Re, and so on. I would practice in the same way as I would practice on the Vajra. I would practice on the Dilruba. So slowly you build up, note by note, you build up your confidence, you build up your kind of, did you hit the right note? I mean, it's amazing on the phone. Like, even 10 years ago, those things were not available. Maybe, okay, 10 years maybe they were, but 20 years they were definitely not. This is amazing. You can get all these tools. This is free stuff. You don't have to pay for it. Let me just check more questions. What is a good age for children to start learning an instrument? Normally, I would say if you're just doing vocals, you can start quite young. You can even start like at 2, 3, if they're just doing singing. If you want them to learn an instrument, a Vajra or tabla, they have to have certain kind of like, it's called dexterity, so they have to be able to coordinate the movement of their fingers. So normally I would say probably 5 to 7 years old. That's when normally the teachers would accept students. But I mean, if your child, some children are really gifted and they can do amazing things like at a really young age. So it depends on your child. I think as a general rule, is probably by 7 they should be all able to have the hand kind of coordination to follow the instruction. And obviously, I mean, I tried with my kids. I didn't quite succeed. My son, he probably learned tabla for like Anyway, don't want to go talk about sad topics. Okay, is it recommended to learn more than one instrument at a time? That is a good question. If you're just starting with music, I would say stick to one instrument. If you had previous experience, then probably you would be more comfortable doing multiple things. But the main thing in the beginning with any instrument, whichever you're starting to do, is it tabla, is it vajja, is it just vocal, is it a tantisaj? In the beginning, it requires a lot of dedication and practice. Great time for it now, right? So in the beginning, literally all you would be doing is you're trying to figure out how to bow, or how to, you know, move your fingers between the keys, or here move the fingers down the frets. So it kind of makes sense to stick with one instrument in the beginning, get the foundation, get the basis done in that instrument, and then it's easier to transfer those same skills onto other instruments. Personally, I actually have started with tabla. I did tabla quite kind of, probably for 6 months. I went to every day to a lesson. I had a gap here and I wasn't doing much, so I did tabla for 6 months, and that gave me that base for kirtan, where I could understand the tals. Tals are the rhythmic measures. So for example, I'll be able to play 10 beat shabads, 12 beat shabads, 16 beat shabads, which are kind of a little more complicated than just normal 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4, because I had the basis in tabla. So in my personal experience, I think tabla is good. It is hard for some people because they can't get the sound out right. Vajja is easier than anything else that we have. Then next probably come the string instruments. These ones which have frets are those lines, make it easier, because it's kind of like a vajja. Because if I press here, if my instrument is tuned and I press here or I press here, that will be ma, this will be pa. I don't have to hear it. Whether with instruments like sarangi, rabab, sarod, saranda, those instruments are harder because they're like violin. You don't know where to put your finger. You have to hear it. Are you hitting the right note or not? So kind of vajja, then these instruments with the frets, then those without frets. And guess what's the hardest one is? Vocal. Vocal is when people actually sing without any instruments. They don't need any reference. So for me, I can't sing without the instrument. I need that reference. So I need to hear sa to be able to sing sa. But some people are amazingly gifted and they can just sing sa without having reference. And that's why I mentioned before in that app, iTabla Pro, they have Tampura, and Tampura does that. It gives you that reference. So if I'll go back to the app which is called iTabla Pro, and I'll put Tampura on. Okay, there's pa. So this giving me a bass note, so I know this is sa, and I'll try to sing sa. Sa. I'm singing sa. I'm singing pa, I think. Anyway, I'm bad at it. I'm not good at it. So I need to know. Thank you. I need to know the note to be able to sing it. But again, the more you practice, the more you do it, the more you listen to the tones, and the more you get more accustomed, it's easier to follow up and pick up things. Okay, let's see. Are there any questions? Okay. So let me quickly recap. Now is your time to learn Kirtan. There are loads of resources online. Actually, yesterday Gurpreet Panji mentioned a couple of websites with online books, PDFs, and on those websites, Sikhi Book Club, I believe, they have scans of PDF scans of these kind of books, so you can get notations for Shabads. Of course, it is difficult to, in the beginning, it's difficult to kind of connect everything together. You have to keep the tuning correct, you have to keep the beat correct. But if the desire is there, if you want to do it, and we have no excuse. We're at home, we have our instruments, hopefully we're gonna do it. Okay, and hopefully after a month, when the isolation stops, and we'll come out, it'll be amazing, Rav Kirtanis, and we'll smash it. Okay, so guys, I think I'll end here. If you guys have any questions, you can post it later on and I'll try to respond. Thank you very much for listening. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa.